Hi, this is Heather Jerome from heatherjerome.com and from the Sonatas and Partitas.com. This video is about the fugue from the second sonata in A minor, BWV 1003, and it is part one of a several part series. So in this video, what I want to cover are basically the building blocks that Bach has set out for himself in order to be able to construct a fugue of monumental proportions. So they're basically three compositional components. There's the subject, there's this little motive here, and then there are the episodic segments. The other thing I want to touch upon is that people discuss this fugue as a concerto fugue. So I want to go over what is a concerto fugue and what makes this fugue a concerto fugue, because the fact that it is, in a sense, Bach uses that sort of as a central building block element, even though it's not an actual set of notes, it's an actual idea that is very finely interwoven into the fabric of this fugue. So let's start with subject. The subject is in two parts, a head and a tail, and you could say the head has attitude, is very strongly articulated, and the tail is, you could actually slur it, just those little parallel thirds. Now the other thing to consider in this fugue is that it is in 2/4, not 4/4, so make sure you're just feeling it in 1 per bar, not 2 per bar. Otherwise it'll sound kind of busy and clunky. So here we have the subject, and then in the dominant, as with all fugue, and then we have another little motive that for the present sounds like a little connecting motive, but actually this is going to be a main building block of the fugue, and Bach will put it through its paces. But right now it just connects the subject and the dominant to the subject and the dominant again. So it almost takes the place of the subject and the tonic. And then after we have that subject, like theoretically in the 4 voices, but one of them has been substituted, we have a circle of fifths. So E minor, A, cadence. Beautiful Phrygian cadence in E. And what do we get as soon as we've cadenced and gotten to that new tonal center? We get this motive again. So let's have a little look at this motive. Now the first time we heard it, it's the head of the fugue twice, and underneath it there's this ultra smooth chromatic line. Now the reason why I'm saying ultra smooth is that Bach actually wrote it in quarter notes, which are theoretically very connected, but in actual fact on the violin you can't even play it in quarter notes. It has to be played in eighth notes, because we have the G and the B. Well, that quarter note G, as soon as the violin plays this C sharp, the bow needs to change direction, and it would either have to let go of the G or repeat the G. It can't just keep sustaining it. But Bach did write quarter notes. And so I think it's important to really feel the connection of those quarter notes and really feel the contrast between the head twice and this really smooth line underneath that's just one unit rather than a pair of little short statements. So we have these two very contrasting bits in that motive. So now what happens here? It's coming up again. Well, now the legato chromatic line is on the top, so it's inverted. And up a step. And up a step again. A real pleading feel to that chromatic line, and then it gets inverted back again, and up a step, and up a step again, and then once we've done that, what do we have? It's Bach. We have a circle of fifths. D, G, C, F. Oh, now we know there's a cadence coming up that Neapolitan. And here, what do we have? We have the fugue subject, but it sounds a little bit different because that would have been the normal thing to do, but Bach went. So why did he play the tail of the fugue down an octave? Well, this is the part in the exposition where it's normal to have the whole subject down an octave. So the normal thing to do would have been this. But on the violin, that note doesn't exist. So Bach did that, but he's almost required to have the subject in the bass here. So as soon as he can put it there, he does. And now, we really feel like we're getting to the end of this section. Another Neapolitan chord. And now, something totally different. So what's happening here? Well, this is where the idea of the concerto fugue comes in. Now, in a concerto, there's the orchestra and there's the soloist. And you could look at it like, what does an orchestra play? Well, the orchestra plays what it's told to play. The soloist plays stuff that's written to sound as if it's a little bit improvisatory. And the earlier ones may have actually been improvised. So this... it almost sounds like it's a violinist. He's taking his fiddle out of the case. He's just kind of warming up. He's doing some barilage bowing. He's doing like nice big arm movements to get limbered up. Whereas at the beginning, we had all this like tight counterpoint with these two motives and getting put in inversion, and everything is just like hyper organized. The chords change fast. We know where we're going. But here we're not going anywhere for now. We're just sitting on a chord. It's very unusual for Bach to just sit on a chord. And it's as if in the introduction, in the exposition part, it's all very like intellectualized in your head. And now the soloist part is all gestural. It's very physical in his body. Now, in this episode, the only job the soloist has is to get us to the key of E. So we're in A. He's just gonna groove. Oh, we're getting to E. Now, what do we have? The same thing in E. Same thing as what is there. Okay, now we've got to the dominant of E, and the soloist's job is over, and the orchestra comes back in with the subject through the voices. Now fragmented. And now one more time. And he's pushing it even farther than the cadence. So the last time that subject came in, instead of just having two parallel thirds, he's got three. And then we can cadence, so we're in E minor. And what do we do when we finally reach the key of E minor? We have our motive X again. Let's just have a look at how Bach treats it this time. We invert it, invert it back, invert it back. So it's like a combination of what he did in the exposition, where he's going down a step and he does it 3 times and then inverts it and does it 3 times. This time he's inverting it and going down a step every time. So that's as far as I'd like to go in this video. But just to recap, so we have these 3 building blocks or a main idea. What the first one is the subject with the head and the tail, and we've already seen how the head and the tail both get used as separate building blocks on their own through the fugue. And then there's this other motive that I've called motive X. Now, going back to relating this to a concerto fugue, I think about the 5th Brandenburg Concerto. Now that Brandenburg Concerto has actually two groups of soloists. There's the orchestra, and one soloist is actually a flute and violin duet. And the other's the harpsichord. Well, this reminds me of, this is like a little duet in the concerto fugue. And that duet has they only have one thing that they can do. It's not like the subject that's going to get permutated and used in little bits and pieces and added to when you want to make it more dramatic. The only thing that this little motive X can do is motive X, but it can do everything. And you'll see as we go along in the fugue, it does everything that you're allowed to do in contrapuntal writing. And the more it goes along, the more complex stuff that Bach puts it through. And while at the same time as like this development of the motive X is getting more and more complicated, it's very structurally taking us through the harmonic scheme of the whole fugue. So we'll cover that in the other videos. And then there's the other thing that you want to consider is the concerto fugue, and really feel the difference when you're playing it from, are you playing as an orchestra or are you playing as a soloist? And are you playing like this hyperly organized, very emotional, music is like speech kind of music? Or are you playing something that is just like, you are a virtuoso soloist and you're in your body and you can, go through lots of bravura. A lot of times the music that you're playing is not actually that musically complex, but it's just, it sounds more virtuosic. So I hope you found this helpful. If you'd like to know when more videos are uploaded, just subscribe to our YouTube channel and turn on your notifications. We also have a website, sonatasandpartitas.com, that has a lot of videos. It's got many, many articles that were co-written by Frank Kuntz and myself. And there's also a newsletter that you can subscribe to. It's non-promotional, just to be notified of when stuff gets added on. So please do visit that website. And as always, let us know what you think at sonatasandpartitas.com.